Journey with Judy. Honest, open, transparent. It's hot.
There's no such thing as perfect people. There's no such thing as a perfect life. So come as you are, broken and scarred. Lift up your heart.
Good morning. Thank you for choosing to journey with Judy this morning, this January 15th. Statistics say that you are just about ready to give up on your New Year's resolutions. And I pray that you are being resolved and intentional and deliberate about whatever you honestly sought within yourself, knowing as 2016 ended that you needed more of, and knowing emphatically what it is that you needed less of. And I pray that God continues to give you the grace to step into all that it is that He has created you to be for 2017. And the reason that I hope that for you is because I hope it for me too. And I just had an opportunity to exercise the very things that I talk about, preach about, and so desperately want to be about in my own life. And I absolutely had an epic failure. So for those of you who don't know, last week was a rerun show. And the reason it was a rerun is because I was on a family trip. I went to Mexico. It was a family trip to Mexico, the first one in forever. And being completely honest, it's the last one probably maybe ever. And so that being said, I think, to be clearly honest, open, and transparent, I entered the trip with super heightened anticipation and conscious and maybe even some more severely unconscious expectation. So here's where I went. Well, first of all, let me just back up and ask you how this sounds. So we are in Mexico. We are literally right on the beach. We are in a penthouse, in a presidential suite, which is probably 2,000 square feet of a room. We have a private butler who makes our appointments. I know Robin's looking at me like, get serious. We were overlooking the ocean, and when we looked to the left, we saw the pool. I mean, it was like the most incredible destination, right? It was a Hard Rock hotel, which is super fun, just different theme than something that we have been used to as a family. We had 1 week of, doing what we wanted, when we wanted, eating when we wanted. There was like really no schedule. I guess doesn't it sound awesome that it rained only one day, the last day, so the weather was absolutely incredible. The entertainment that the hotel offered was so, just so enjoyable. But it is only my family who could go on a 7-day vacation and ruin it. It is only the Hehr family who could find fault in a 7-day vacation and have it end really crappy. And, the show is always about being honest, open, and transparent. And more than ever, I want you to understand that the way it started is what made the destination be what it was. Because here's why. Is destination sets the tone for travel. And although we were surrounded by this incredible beauty, the six of us still brought our personalities, our opinions, our life education. We were all trapped in this one room, and it was not big enough for 6 Hairs. So I think what would have been a deal maker for the family trip was a definition of vacation. If we sat down prior and said, everybody define what a good vacation would be, 2 things would have happened. Either number 1, we would have not gone, or number 2, we would have just changed everything about our perspective and how we approach this trip. So before we go to break, I just want to ask you, when did it be totally acceptable for 12-year-olds and 50-year-olds to wear thongs while they are twerking by a pool? When did it become acceptable to have 40 and 50-year-old women literally positioning themselves in front of my 20 and 21-year-old son day after day, shaking their whatever, and my girls just said, Mom, you're just jealous because they look better than you. Maybe there's an element of that, but the reality is what I saw this week made my head spin. So let's talk about a whole lot of things when we get back, because here's the deal. Wherever you go, my friends, there you will be. And you best know that the real you needs to show up at some point in time. So you're journeying with Judy right here on Lake 96.1, and we'll be back after the break. All right, so welcome back. I don't know. Were you giving some thought to the whole twerking thong thing? Because I don't know. I don't know if it's a culture thing. I don't know if it's just a Judy Hehr thing. But I don't know if I could twerk and I could wear a thong if I would do either of one of those things, but I can just tell you I didn't think it was to any benefit to my children to have to look at it for a whole week. But anyway, here's the deal. It's really about the lens in which we look at things, and therefore that is what we see. And so it's our own experiences, opinions, education that has created in us our own reality. And here's the deal. We got to live in that reality, and that is the thing that became so clear to me in the last week. So as much as I'm bashing on my family trip, here's the deal. It was an incredible opportunity to learn, to see things from a different perspective, to understand what it is, what areas maybe need some improvement. And here's what I know. I know the biggest room in my house is the room for improvement. And we never want to settle in any capacity. You know, as a wife, as a mother, as a kid, as an athlete, whatever it is that you're doing, you never want to be a coaster. You always got to keep your foot on the gas in some capacity, because otherwise, you will settle for less than your own personal best. And that's not why Jesus died for you, so you could settle for less than your own personal best. So I mentioned this book that I had read, which I really wanted to practice the principles of this book on my trip. And it's a book called The Four Agreements. And so to kind of sum it up, it's the process of our own education, which distorts the lens in which we view ourselves and others. So it's kind of what I said a few minutes ago. But the book is defined as a guide to self-mastery. So if we stop lying about, what it is that we make excuses about, and we start trying to implement what this book calls these four agreements, then inevitably life will be different. So I'm one of those people, my strengths, when I do a strength finder assessment, it always comes up learner as my top strength. And most people, at least the ones living with me, would tell you that that's not a strength. Like, just because I always want to be learning, one of the things that was the theme of the trip from my husband and my kids was, everything is not a teaching moment. And I beg to differ. Everything is a teaching moment, because we always got to be learning, or more importantly, always willing, right? To be open-minded, to be learning. So I guess the question is, are you lying to, or are you trying to? Are you lying to yourself about what it is when you settle for less than your personal best? Or are you trying to be the best possible version of yourself? Because this is such a great book. If you really want to look at those areas in your life, like these four agreements that you could make with yourself. And obviously, when you make an agreement with yourself, it affects the people that you love. It even affects the people that you don't love. But kind of the premise of the book really goes in line with what I've been learning for the last year and a half in the training programs I've been involved in, which is about self-limiting beliefs. So when we have these limiting beliefs, they rob us of love. They certainly rob us of a life that's better than what it could be, and it creates kind of some suffering that could otherwise be avoided. So there's something written in all of us that's this kind of like this code of conduct. That's not a favorite word of mine, but it's a code of conduct that requires absolutely zero religious beliefs to incorporate. It just requires a desire to be inspired to have more. So as we're starting 2017, I know that it's in some capacity, all of us have looked at, like, what do we want to do more of? Or what do we need to do less of? What is it that we did? What was working so we can keep doing it? And what might not have been working that we want to eliminate? So it's like we want to move from good to great, but we really don't know how. So truth be told, we make these agreements. We make them with ourselves, our society, our parents, our other people. The most important one is that we make an agreement to ourselves. And based on your past, that agreement could enlighten your horizons, or it could bind you. Like sometimes, I'm a binding person because of my own past. I've said a million times, I just want my kids to make some new mistakes and learn from them. And they all four in unison will say, Mom, you've made every mistake. There is absolutely none for us to learn, nothing for us to learn on our own. But this book is really about reclaiming your own personal power. It's about like your true identity and potential. Like imagine if you and everyone you knew and loved were living to their best potential, right, Robs? Wouldn't that be amazing? I know as a parent, if you are a parent, you understand what I'm talking about, that when your kids lower the bar, it's like, it's not about that they're not good enough. It's about that they're settling for less than their own personal best. And as a result, they invite anyone around them to do the very same thing. This is not about being judgmental. This is about me running my race to the best of my ability and inspiring you to do the same, right? For the sake of your own life and their people around you. So a little bit more about the book. So if you choose to embrace and apply these truths, right, of this book to your life, then you will live this abundant life that God created. So here's the thing. I don't know what your beliefs are about spiritual warfare, but since this is a religious show, I can touch on this. Is while you're trying to move forward, I can promise you there's some forces that are trying to pull you backwards. So there's a scripture verse that says that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, right? But I, the Lord, I have come that you would have life and you'd have it to the fullest. So I think the foundation in which I'm trying to build this show this morning is about really living out of true freedom, right? Freedom is not license to do the wrong thing. Freedom is making some really good choices. So I'm inspiring you today on January 15th, 2017, to find some true acceptance, not only of me, but of you, not only of yourself, but of others. And when you do, you have you have exponentially increased your ability to step into your most authentic self. So here's the deal. At the end of the day, we are who God says we are. We got to stop listening to the voices in our head, and we get to choose to be part of the problem or part of the solution. And I confess to you this Sunday, January 15th, that for 7 days, I chose to be part of the problem. So you're listening to Journey with Judy right here on Lake 96.1, and it's only because of Cunis Country Auto Group that I have the pleasure of being with you every Sunday. So we'll be back on the other side of the break. All right, so the Hehr family, just to catch you up if you're coming in on the other side of the break, we just came home from a family trip to Mexico. I mean, it's the first time in forever that we've gone on a trip, and it might be the last time ever. And so there we were in Cancun, Mexico, in this beautiful resort, steps from the ocean, poolside, with our own private butler in a penthouse suite. Every single person in my family had a manicure, a pedicure, a back massage, a facial. I mean, I'm talking, if you're about worldly things, you can be coveting the experience that we just had. But here's the deal, guys. I am always someone who has been willing to give up what I want now for what I want most. And what I want most is for my kids to always become the best version of themselves and never allow a culture and what the rest of the world is doing to be their measuring stick. I mean, let's be honest. Leaders, I want my kids to be leaders, and leaders lead themselves, and then leaders have the ability to lead other people. And when I see in any way, shape, or form any one of my children or even myself or my man following in a way that doesn't serve us best, there's not a judgment other than I just think there's a different way. It doesn't mean better. It's what's better for me. Okay. So let me just be clear on that. So I had read this book called The Four Agreements. I highly recommend it, especially if you're trying to look at things in a different perspective. We know that the things we look at change when we change the way we look at things. And there's nothing that's going to change about the fact that a woman that's 40 years old twerking in front of my sons with a thong on is going to be acceptable. Yeah, and with your own, you take your 4 kids and your thong and your twerking and go to, I don't know, the Riviera Maya. Anyway, okay, so here's the deal. The principles of this, and maybe there's an underlying theme that I wish I could twerk and wear a thong. I'm not sure. I'll let you know when I process that and God enlightens me to the real truth about myself. So the first agreement, there's 4 agreements that this book sets as the foundation. And the first one is to be impeccable with your word. Okay, so if you're impeccable with your word, you're speaking with integrity. You're saying what you mean, you're meaning what you say, and you avoid using words to speak against yourself, to talk about other people. Here's the deal. The Word of God has power, and our words have no less power. It says that words have the power to bring life or death, right? So it's like a double-edged sword that we are always in possession of. And when we use the power of our words in the direction of truth and love, it's always going to end different. So let me define love too, because truth is truth if no one believes it, and a lie is a lie if everyone believes it. And love, if we're speaking out of love, it's literally desiring the highest and best good for the sake of that person. So what story is it that you tell yourself? What words are you speaking to yourself and to those around you? Because the story that you've told yourself, you've created it. It's your truth. It's your truth with a small t, right? So one of the things that I really feel like I do well, and I'm not big at, giving myself affirmations, but I can accept responsibility, Robs. I am someone who can say, you know what? I blew it. I dropped the ball. And in this case, at least for the first couple days, I was pretty impeccable with my word. But by day 7, I was a double-edged sword, baby. I was like stabbing. Anyway, so you got to be impeccable with your word, meaning you're taking responsibility for what you say. There's no blaming. There's no saying, if you did this, I wouldn't do that. You should have done this, and then I shouldn't do. There's no shoulda, woulda, couldas when you are impeccable with your word. So some of you can relate to this. Some of us, when it comes to what we're thinking and what we're saying to ourselves, we're negative self-talkers, right? We don't really tell ourselves the truth. But here's the sad news is you're the messenger of what your truth is. And so unless you're really allowing God to speak to you and through you, it might not end as well as it could be. So I want you to consider what it is that you are believing. And never, ever use your words against yourself or against other people, both of which I did this week, by the way. Okay, so number 2, do not take anything personally. Guys, this is so important. And when you are being, told something by someone who you love and they're talking directly to you and about you, it's kind of hard to go, well, this isn't even about me. Here's the deal. 99% of the time, what people say and do is almost never about you. What we say is about us, and what people hear is about them. So when we're seeing and believing things, it's just so important to know that nothing that anyone else does is because of you. Right? You might have brought up something in their past, or you might be doing or say. That's why when I see these people behaving in a certain way, it's not even about them. It's about my own stuff. So what others say and do is a projection of their own stuff, their own dreams, their own fears, faults, failures, whatever. So when you become immune to the opinions and actions of others, you never become a victim, right? You are never a victim, and therefore you don't even have to. So Robin is shaking her head. We started on the break saying we don't care for children. Now, we mean that because we love our children. But what God was thinking when he made me a mother of 4 children, and plus they are like me and my man, I don't even know, and I'm not even on any medicine. I think, Rob said I only have 2 more minutes. Okay, so you can't be taking anything personally. Number 3, do not make assumptions. I remember in school, the teacher wrote an ass out of you and me. When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. You got to find the courage to ask questions and to express what it is that you really want. Communication, okay? Communication with others, it has to be as clear as it can possibly be, so you avoid misunderstandings, right? And drama. Okay, I was told on the trip, Mama, you bring the drama. I guess I bring the drama to the equation. I don't really know. But with this one agreement, okay, this is the 3rd one. If just this one, it can completely transform your life. Number 4, always do your best. Do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it in the way you're supposed to do it. And when you do that, it'll always leave you thinking, feeling, and acting in a different way. Your best is going to change from moment to moment, but it's your personal best. It's not comparing your best to someone else's worst. 1 more minute. it'll be different when you are in a good place or a good season of your life than a difficult one. But under any circumstances, you simply get to choose to do your best. And when you do, it's most likely that you will be avoiding self-judgment, self-abuse, and maybe that big thing, that big old word called regret. So this week, I pray for you, every one of my listeners, that you choose to be the best version of you, that you choose to be part of the solution and not part of the problem, and that you realize first and foremost that when the things you look at change when you change the way you look at things. So thanks for journeying with Judy this week. If you're not going to embrace any of the philosophies I've tried to impart on you today, then at least keep it hot, be honest, be open, and be transparent. Peace out.